Okay, we are on. I am Rachel Lockhart, and I read the 2017 Nordic report over challenges and time to adaptation 4 to 5 years.
And my name is Colleen Cox, and I read the 2016 K through 12 report.
I'm Stephanie Herod. I read the 2017 Library Edition, Challenges Impeding Technology Adoption in Academic and Research Libraries.
Excellent. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started tonight. A couple of the challenges that they mentioned in this report, one of the solvable challenges that they talked about was blending formal and informal learning. And finding a way, because so much learning now happens informally, just with like your phone or with your life experiences. And so they're talking about one of the challenges is blending that information that students are learning in with the formal learning and finding a way to acknowledge that learning, as a part of formal learning. And one of the difficult challenges they talked about was balancing connected and unconnected life, like really teaching and showing your learners how to balance time with technology and time using your other senses like smelling, tasting, and really promoting a safe digital environment. So they kind of talked about those challenges, as well as the achievement gaps and the gaps that happen when the more everything is based on technology, the more gaps you have with kids that don't have strong internet or any internet at home. And then a couple of the adoption things that they were looking at there, it was a 4 to 5 years, so it was way out. But one of the things they talked about was speech-to-speech translation. So it's real time, we're speaking different languages, and it's like a universal translator that automatically translates so you know what the other person's saying, even if you don't speak the same language, which totally made me think of Star Trek because they have that. And I'm like, yeah, that's so cool. But they're saying it's still a long ways off, at least for education, just because there's so many little things with it. But there are some different programs like Pilot and obviously Google Translate and Say Hi that are kind of doing that right now. One other thing they talked about that I thought was really interesting was virtual and remote laboratories. So virtual laboratories are ones that you can go in and try crazy experiments, but it's all online. So it's hands-on, but there's no risk at all to you because it's all virtual. Whereas remote laboratories are ones that are they actually exist, but you can access them still through phones and webcams and things like that. And so they're doing a lot of really cool science experiments with climate change and things like that in the Nordic countries, and doing a lot of different scenarios and testing and to kind of see how that works. Yeah, so I guess that was they also talked about virtual assistants, and my big thought was they were talking in Norway, there's Swedbank that is using it, and I'm like, isn't that a hack risk? I would be really worried about having a virtual, assistant being a part of my bank, but, and then the other one was wearable technology like glasses and watches and things like that. And kind of some of the, not just wearing them, but also making them and having students in the Nordic countries really practice making them. There's some of them, they learn how to program these microbits into wearable technology. And the one ISTE standard I felt really went with this was the digital citizenship for coaches, model and promote diversity, cultural understanding, and global awareness by using digital age communication and collaboration tools to interact locally and globally with students, peers, parents, and the larger community. Because the one thing that all of these things can do is really communicate or find a way to communicate with others around the world. you know, like if we had speech to speech translation, you could talk to people anywhere, like webcam or whatever, and really get a feel for, you know, their culture. And you could do the virtual labs across the world and see all sorts of different things, or the remote labs. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay, in my K through 12 report, a lot of the things were kind of similar to the 2017 report that I read. One of the solvable challenges that they had in the report was rethinking the roles of teachers. And so we've come across this like time and time again about how our traditional school day and how we do it is really outdated. And kind of the struggles of trying to push teachers into this new mindset of not standing and delivering, but creating opportunities for students to create and explore. So in one of the article, it says that teachers need to act as facilitators or of collaborative interdisciplinary projects, and they rely on each other to share expertise and provide support. But of course, like our biggest challenge is our own government. So until our government kind of gets on board, then we're always going to be kind of just stuck in this traditional school model. So government action is key into helping educators keep pace with our 21st century learners. And for those of us that have read the Nordic reports, it's like, wow, we're really behind. And it's kind of scary to think, like, is it even possible for us to kind of catch up to this whole different way of learning? And then you have to think of the professional developments to provide teachers, getting teachers to change their mindsets as well. And the ITSE standard that I connected that with was the administrative 2A, which is ensuring instructional innovation focused on continuous improvement of digital age learning. So I think it's, while we may not be able to change our government, it's a fact of, like, from an administrator point of view, really just being the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. So getting these things on your campus, getting the PD, getting what you need to start moving in that direction with or without the government.
Cool. That kind of goes along with one of the things that I read. Like you said, teachers have to embrace this new mindset. Well, in the library Horizon report that I read, it talked about how librarians and libraries have to also embrace like the library's changing needs. And one of the solvable things that I focused on this week was improving digital literacy. And that's a big thing with technology, like as it grows. And one of the things it mentioned in here was that libraries could create their own digital literacy training sites that allows the learners to customize their course, track their progress, and they can receive like certifications in understanding like where they're at in their digital literacy like education. And it also talked about how like with the increasing appeal of social media, that kids have so much access to information that they don't know how to sift through it and see if it's even a credible source. So the amount of sources going out there that aren't even true, kids are just taking it and running wild with it because they're not being trained to think critically about what they're reading. And I think that really goes along with the ISTE standard, citizen standards for educators, the A, create experiences for learners to make positive, socially responsible contributions and exhibit empathetic behavior online that build relationships and community. Like we all know they use it every day, every second if possible. And it also mentioned that it's not just the librarian's responsibility at this point, like it's a team effort. Like we all have to take charge of helping these kids learn how to go through and understand what they're seeing and how what they're posting impacts them and others.
Absolutely. And, you know, in the balancing, one of the challenges in mine, the balancing connected and unconnected life, that was one of their big things, is making students aware of their digital footprint and the accompanying implications. Like what are the consequences of your digital footprint? How is that going to affect the rest of your life? And I think that's one of the things that students need to be trained on the most, especially with the social media and Snapchatting and all that. But it's one of the things that is the most left out of formal education. So we definitely need to find a way to get that in, so kids understand how their actions in technology can impact their lives.
I agree.
And just to close out, I was going to add to your comments, Rachel, about when you were saying the Google Translate and everything. I don't know where I read it because we've been reading so many different things or saw it or whatever, but there is technology now that's being developed for sign language. So where it's interpreting the hand signal. So if you're speaking to someone that's signing, you're able to see what the signs mean, which I thought was really cool.
That is cool.
That is very cool, especially because that's even harder to do, than like verbal language, like being able to do that. So,
Yeah.
excellent. Awesome. Well, it was nice visiting with you ladies. Have a good week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.